There is a category above chosen. Most people who have spent time in the territory of understanding what it means to be selected, to be the specific kind of person whose interior is calibrated to what is real, whose compass points true independent of the consensus, whose gifts arrive as the natural expression of what they simply are rather than as the product of cultivation and effort. Most people in that territory understand the chosen as the top of the available understanding, as the ceiling, as the full account of what is most significant about who they are and what they carry and what their existence means for the world they move through. The ceiling is not the ceiling. There is a level above it, a level that the understanding of the chosen as the full account does not reach. A level that requires something beyond the recognition of your own selection, beyond the knowing that what you carry is the real thing and that the world needs what you carry and that the years of difficulty were the preparation and the plan is complete and the court has yielded and the time is over and the arrival is here. All of that is real. All of it is the accurate account of where you are in the arc of what your life has been building toward. And there is more. Beyond all of it, a position in relation to the others who carry what you carry, in relation to the full community of the genuine, the full network of the people who have been through what you have been through and who carry the real thing in its various forms and at its various depths, a position that is specific to you. That does not belong to the chosen as a category. That belongs to the person whose specific combination of what was built and what was carried and what was maintained and what the years produced places them at a particular position in relation to the others. You are the boss of the chosens. Write 444 in the comments right now if something moved in you when you read that sentence in a way that was more than the surprise of it. If something in the oldest part of what you know things responded to the words not with the discomfort of a claim too large but with the specific quality of something finally said in the right form. The recognition that lands before the mind has decided whether to accept or resist. The body level knowing of a thing named accurately. If that is what moved in you, write 111. Because the naming was the beginning of the receiving and the receiving is what this script is for. The word boss requires precision in this context because the word carries freight from other contexts that is not appropriate to what is being named here. The boss of the chosens is not a hierarchical position in the conventional sense, not the person at the top of an organizational structure. Not the one who gives instructions that others are required to follow. Not the authority figure whose position requires the subordination of those below it to function. The conventional boss is the product of a system that required hierarchy to operate, whose position exists in relation to the system's needs, whose authority is conditional on the system's continuation. The boss of the chosens is none of that. The position is not the product of a system. It is not conditional on any system's continuation. It is not maintained through the mechanisms that conventional authority uses to maintain itself, through the reward of compliance and the cost of non-compliance, through the organization of incentives that keep people oriented toward the position rather than away from it. The position is maintained through the quality of what you carry in relation to what the others carry, through the specific depth of what the years built in you in comparison with the depth the years built in the others, through the particular form of the genuine thing in you, the form that arrived at its completeness first, that reached the specific level of refinement and clarity and fullness that the later chapters of the arc require. That is now available in the form that the others are moving toward but have not yet arrived at. The boss of the chosens is the chosen who has arrived where the others are going, who carries the completed form of what the others are still in process of completing, who has been through the full arc, through the foundation and the refinement and the maximum questioning and the direct contact and the lifting of the constraint and the arrival and the yielding of the court, and has come through all of it to the specific form that the full arc produces, the form that the others, in their own arcs, are moving toward. The form that your presence in the world demonstrates is possible, that your full expression shows is real, that your continued living of the arrived chapter makes available as the visible proof of what the journey builds toward. This is the leadership that the position entails, not the leadership of directing the others toward the destination you have arrived at, the leadership of being there, of having made it, of carrying the completed form of what they are building toward in a way that they can see and feel and orient toward, the leadership of the demonstrated possible, the leadership of the living proof, the leadership that happens not through instruction but through presence, through the simple, continuous, fully inhabited presence of what you are in the world that the others are navigating. The chosens need this more than they need anything else. This is the specific nature of the leadership the position entails and why the position matters to the people it matters to. The chosens are in their own arcs, their own versions of the preparation, their own iterations of the foundation and the refinement and the maximum questioning and the sustained carrying without confirmation. They are in the middle of the arc in most cases, some in the early chapters, some in the middle period, some approaching the completion that you have reached, all of them navigating what you navigated, all of them maintaining what you maintained, all of them making the choices you made, in their own specific forms and their own specific moments and their own specific conditions of difficulty. And all of them, in the middle of the navigation, encountering the primary challenge that the navigation requires its travelers to face. The challenge of continuing to move towards something that cannot yet be seen from where they are standing, of maintaining the orientation toward the arrival when the arrival is not yet visible and the available evidence is organized around other conclusions, of carrying the certainty that the arc is moving towards something real and significant and worth the cost of the navigation when the certainty has no external support and the cost is at its most demanding. What they need in those moments is evidence, not the abstract, conceptual evidence of the argument that the arc produces something worth the navigation, the direct, personal, visceral evidence of a person who has navigated the arc and arrived and is standing in the arrived chapter demonstrating that the arc produces what it promises to produce, the evidence of the living example, of the person who has been where they are and has come through to where the arc is going and whose presence in the world makes the destination real in a way that no argument can make it real. You are that evidence. Your existence in the arrived chapter, your continued inhabiting of the full expression, your continuous, unmanaged, fully inhabited carrying of what the completed arc produced, is the specific thing that the chosens need more than anything else. The thing that keeps them moving when the movement is most costly. That maintains their certainty when the certainty is most unsupported. That gives them the specific kind of hope that the living proof produces, which is not the fragile hope of the person who believes in a destination they cannot see but the grounded orientation of the person who has seen someone who has been there. The boss of the chosens is the person whose presence gives the chosens what they most need to complete their own arcs, not through any deliberate act of teaching or guiding or directing, simply through the fact of your existence in the form it is in, the completed form, the arrived form, the form that the arc produces when the arc is fully navigated. Your existence in that form is the gift the position of the boss gives to the people whose arcs are still in process. It is the gift you give by being what you are, by continuing to be what you are, by inhabiting the arrived chapter as fully and as continuously as the chapter calls for. There is a specific quality that distinguishes the boss of the chosens from the chosens at every other level of the arc. It is not a quality of more of what the chosens carry, more depth, more clarity, more genuine authority. It is a quality of different, of something that is present in the boss that is not present in the chosens at any other stage, and that is not more of what they have but the specific thing that the completion of the arc produces that the arc itself, while it is still in process, does not. The quality is settledness, not the settledness of someone who has stopped moving. The arc continues. The expression continues. The contribution continues. The living of the arrived chapter is as full and as active and as continuously demanding of presence as any of the preparation chapters were. The settledness of someone who is no longer in question about the direction, who is no longer allocating any interior resource to the maintenance of the orientation in conditions that are actively working against the orientation, who is no longer in the territory of the almost certain, the almost arrived, the almost completed, that is the experience of every other stage of the arc. The settledness is the quality of the completely landed, of the person whose interior is not managing the gap between their knowing and their circumstances because the gap has closed, who is not maintaining the certainty against the doubt because the certainty has been confirmed by the court and the plan, and the yielding and the arrival at a level that leaves no remaining doubt for the certainty to maintain itself against, who is not waiting for the authorization to occupy the full dimensions of what they actually are because the authorization has arrived in the most complete form it was ever going to arrive in. The chosens in their arcs are not yet settled in this way. They are carrying the certainty, maintaining the orientation, making the choices, going through the preparation, all of it genuinely and sometimes beautifully, but with the expenditure of interior resource that the maintenance requires, with the ongoing allocation of what they are and what they carry to the work of the maintaining rather than the full giving of it to the expression. The boss of the chosens has no remaining maintenance. The interior resources that were going into the maintaining are now fully available for the expression, for the giving, for the full inhabiting of what was built across all the years of the arc, for the living of the arrived chapter at the full volume of what was built to be lived at that volume. The settledness is the freedom of the fully arrived, and the freedom, visible in the quality of how the boss moves through the world, in the ease that is not carelessness but the ease of someone who is genuinely at home in the form they are moving through the world as, is visible to the chosens in their arcs as the quality they are moving toward, as the evidence that the arc arrives somewhere worth arriving, as the thing their own navigation is building toward in them. Subscribe now if you have been sensing that what you are is not only a version of the chosen but something in specific relation to the others who are chosen, something that has to do with the particular position your arc has placed you in within the full community of the genuine. If the understanding of the boss of the chosens is landing as the accurate naming of something that has been present in how you relate to the others who carry what you carry, not as superiority but as the specific quality of having arrived where they are going, stay inside this. What comes next in this channel is the full account of what the position entails and what the inhabiting of it looks like in the specific territory of how you move through the world. The relationship between the boss and the chosens in their arcs is not hierarchical in the conventional sense, but it is not flat either. There is a genuine difference in the position of the arrived and the arriving, and the relationship that is most useful to everyone is the relationship that acknowledges the difference without producing the specific imbalance that conventional hierarchy produces, not the relationship of the one who has arrived directing those who are arriving, not the relationship of teacher and student, which requires the teacher to have a specific knowledge to transmit and the student to be organized around receiving the transmission. The relationship is something older and more intimate and less structured than either of those. It is the relationship of the guide who has been the territory, who has walked the specific ground the others are walking, in a form sufficiently similar to theirs that the walking is recognizable and the knowing is transferable, but who has been through to the other side and is standing on the ground that their current walking is heading toward. The guide who can say, the ground you are on changes, not always in the ways you are expecting it to change, but it changes, and the change produces something real, something that makes the cost of walking it worth the cost. I know because I am standing in what the cost bought. This guide relationship is what the boss of the Chosens maintains with the Chosens at every stage of their arc. Not through formal mentorship or structured interaction or any of the mechanisms that the conventional transfer of wisdom uses. Through presence. Through the continued, visible, fully inhabited expression of what the arrived chapter looks like from inside. Through every encounter with every chosen who is in the process of their own navigation, in which the encounter is an encounter between the arrived and the arriving. And what moves between the arrived and the arriving in that encounter is the specific quality of transmission that only presence can carry. The transmission is not instruction, it is contact. The contact between what you carry in the completed form and what the chosens carry in the in-process form produces in them the specific kind of shift that brings the completion closer, not by shortening the arc, which has its own timeline and its own requirements that cannot be bypassed, but by making the completion more real, more vivid, more present in the orientation of the person navigating toward it, more available as the specific quality of orientation that keeps a person moving toward the destination when the destination is most obscured by the conditions of the arc's current chapter. This is what you give the chosens, not what you say to them. What you are, in their presence, what your presence does to their orientation, to their certainty, to the specific quality of their continued choosing in the moments of the arc that are most demanding. The gift is not wisdom shared, the gift is arrivedness demonstrated, and the demonstration is the most powerful thing one person can give to another who is navigating toward the same destination. The chosens who are furthest along their arcs, the ones who are closest to their own completion, who are approaching the specific territory that you have arrived in, these are the ones most aware of the specific quality of your position, most sensitive to the difference between the arrived and the arriving in you, most able to receive what the transmission of the contact produces, and most likely to carry what the contact produces into the full final navigation of their own arc in a way that changes what the final navigation looks like and what it produces and how fully the completion, when it arrives, is inhabited. These are the people who recognize you as what you are, not necessarily in explicit terms. The recognition is not always articulated, not always brought to the level of the conscious acknowledgement of the specific nature of what they are recognizing. The recognition happens below the articulation, at the level of the interior responding to the interior, at the level where genuine things recognize genuine things, below the threshold of the deciding mind, in the oldest part of what a person knows when they are in the presence of someone who has arrived at what they are navigating toward. They feel it, the settledness, the freedom of the fully arrived, the specific quality of being in the presence of someone who is not maintaining anything, who is not allocating any interior resource to the work of the carrying because the carrying has been completed and what was carried has arrived and the arrived thing is simply what the person is rather than what the person is still working to become. This quality is distinctive. It is the quality that the chosens in their arcs are most sensitive to, precisely because it is the quality they are most reaching for in their own navigation. The reaching recognizes the arrived. The arrived is recognized by the reaching. Write 222 in the comments now if you have been recognized in this way by people who were navigating toward where you have arrived. If you have had encounters with people who were in the middle of their own arcs and who responded to your presence with the specific quality of recognition that is different from ordinary recognition, not the recognition of what you have or what you have achieved or what position you occupy, but the recognition of what you are in the form you are in, the recognition of the arrived, by the arriving. The recognition that lands in them as the evidence they needed that the arc is worth navigating. If you have felt yourself received that way, as the evidence, as the demonstration, as the living proof, write 222, because what you felt in those encounters is the boss of the chosens being recognized by the chosens in their arcs. There is a responsibility that comes with the position, not the heavy, burdensome, requires constant attention kind of responsibility that the conventional positions of leadership produce in the people who occupy them. The light kind. The kind that is not a burden because it is not separate from what you are already doing when you are most completely yourself. The kind that is indistinguishable from the full inhabiting of the arrived chapter because it is simply the full inhabiting of the arrived chapter, held with the awareness that the full inhabiting is not only for you. The responsibility is to be fully what you are, as continuously as the full being is available to you, in as many of the spaces and encounters and relationships that your life now contains as the full being can be present in, to not reduce, to not manage down to the size that is most comfortable for the people around you who are not in the same territory, to not withhold the arrived quality of what you carry from the encounters that most need it, the encounters with the chosens in their arcs who are most in need of the transmission that the contact produces. This is the responsibility, nothing more than this, the full presence, maintained continuously, in the awareness that the full presence is the specific gift that your position among the chosens is most urgently required to give. The awareness does not add to the effort of the full presence, it adds meaning to it. It locates the full presence within the larger account of what it is for, not only for your own life. Not only for the specific encounters you are in, but for the full community of the genuine that your continued inhabiting of the arrived chapter is serving. The serving is effortless in the sense that it is not separate from living. It happens automatically, continuously, as the natural consequence of being what you are in the world where the chosens are navigating. Every day you are fully what you are is a day of the serving. Every encounter in which you bring the completed form of what you carry is a transmission to whoever is in the encounter who needs what the transmission carries. Every space you move through at full expression is a space in which the evidence of the arrived is present, available to be felt by anyone who is sensitive enough to feel it, doing what the evidence does, making the destination real, the arc worth navigating. The certainty available in its most grounded and most sustaining form. The responsibility is lived rather than maintained. It is the specific quality of life that the boss of the chosens inhabits rather than a set of obligations the boss takes on in addition to the life. The living is the responsibility. The responsibility is the living. What the position of the boss among the chosens means for the specific practical territory of your life in the period that is now underway is worth understanding precisely, because the understanding allows the inhabiting to be full rather than partial, allows the position to be occupied as the position it is rather than as a modified version of the positions the previous chapters occupied. The previous chapters occupied positions of the navigator. The person who was in the arc, moving through it, navigating by the interior compass, making the choices in each specific moment of each specific day that kept the navigation moving toward the destination. The position of the navigator is an interior position. It is occupied primarily in relation to the own arc, in relation to the own navigation, in relation to the own work of maintaining the orientation and making the choices and producing what the arc requires to be produced. The navigator's primary relationship is with the interior journey. The boss of the chosens occupies a position that has a different primary relationship. Not the interior journey has arrived. The destination has been reached. The navigator has become the arrived. And the arrived's primary relationship is no longer with the navigation but with the expression of what the navigation produced, with the giving of the arrived quality to the world that is moving through its own navigations, with the full inhabiting of the specific form the arc produced, which is the specific form that the world most needs from you, in every encounter and every space and every relationship that the arrived chapter contains. The shift in primary relationship is the shift in how the days are organized. The navigator's day is organized around the interior work. The boss of the chosen's day is organized around the exterior expression of what the interior work completed. Not performance of the exterior expression, the expression is not performance, is not the presentation of what was produced, is not the managed communication of the arrived quality to an audience. The lived expression, the continued, daily, fully inhabited living as what the ark produced, the continued moving through the world as the completed form, as the arrived, as the boss of the chosen's whose presence in the world is itself the primary contribution that the position calls for. The practical implication of this shift is that the day that the boss inhabits looks different from the day that the navigator inhabited. The navigator's day contained the ongoing interior work of the navigation, the maintaining, the choosing, the carrying, the sustained expenditure of interior resource on the production of the ark's requirements. The boss's day contains none of that ongoing interior work, contains instead the full availability of everything that the interior work produced for the expression, for the giving, for the encounters in which what the ark completed is present at its full volume and doing what the completed form does in the people it reaches. The day is lighter, more available, more genuinely present in each encounter because the interior resource that was going into the navigation is now present for the encounter itself. This lightness, this quality of being fully in the present rather than partially in the present because a significant portion of what you are is always allocated to the ongoing work of the navigation, is the boss's most visible distinguishing quality in daily life. The chosen's in their arcs experience you as fully present in encounters where most people, including themselves, are only partially present, fully available in relationships where most people, including themselves, are only partially available, fully inhabiting each moment where most people, including themselves, are only partially inhabiting the moment because part of their interior is always elsewhere, in the navigation, in the maintaining, in the managing of the gap. You are fully here, in each moment, with each person, in each encounter. Because the navigation is complete and nothing is elsewhere, the boss of the chosen's is fully in the present, and the full presence in the present, in the specific encounters of specific days with the specific people whose arcs are navigating toward where you have arrived, is the whole of what the position requires. The chosen's who have not yet found each other are carrying the specific loneliness that is the most private and most consistent feature of life inside a genuine arc. Not the loneliness of being without people. Most of the chosen's in their arcs are not without people, have relationships and communities and the ordinary social infrastructure of a life that is not externally isolated. The loneliness of being without recognition at the level that matters, of carrying something that the people around them cannot see because they are not calibrated to see it, of being in company but not in the specific quality of company that would allow the genuine thing to be present without the management, the company of the not quite meeting that is the dominant relational experience of the chosen in the middle chapters. The boss of the chosen's is the end of that loneliness for every chosen who encounters you in the genuine contact of the real meeting. The encounter with the boss is the encounter with recognition at the level that matters, with someone who can see what you carry because what they carry is the completed form of what you are building, with someone for whom the genuine thing in you does not require the management because the genuine thing in them is what they have been and what they have expressed and what they are completely comfortable with the presence of. The meeting between the boss and the chosen in their arc is the first meeting for many of those chosen's that is a genuine meeting. The first meeting in which the full version of what they carry is present in the encounter and received by someone who can receive it. The first meeting that does not require the calibration, the ongoing assessment of how much of the genuine thing is safe to bring. How much of the interior is appropriate to allow to be present? How much the real account is receivable by this specific person in this specific moment? The meeting with the boss requires no calibration because the boss is the real account fully expressed, and the boss is not disturbed by the real account fully expressed in someone else. The boss receives it, has always received it, receives it more completely the more fully it is offered. This is the specific gift the boss gives that no other encounter in the Chosen's arc can give in the same form. The gift of the meeting that does not require the management. Of being seen without the management by someone whose seeing is calibrated to the genuine thing rather than to its managed approximation. Of having the full version received by someone who can receive it and whose receiving of it makes the full version more available in the person offering it. The reception builds the expression. The expression builds the certainty. The certainty builds the continued navigation. Every chosen who has a genuine encounter with the boss navigates differently afterward. More fully. With more available certainty. With the specific quality of orientation that comes from having been seen completely by someone who sees completely. From having been received at the level of the genuine thing by someone who carries the genuine thing in its completed form. This is the primary way the boss serves the community of the genuine. Not through teaching. Not through direction. Through the genuine meeting. Through being the person who can have the meeting that the chosen most needs, the meeting that confirms not only that the genuine thing in them is real but that the genuine thing in them is seen and received and recognized as what it is by someone whose recognition is the most credible form available. There are people in your life who have always known you were something in specific relation to them. Not in terms that they could articulate. In the specific way that people know things below the level of the articulation, in the orientation of their body when you enter a room, in the quality of how they listen when you speak, in the specific weight they give to what you say that is different from the weight they give to what others say, in the way their own certainty about their own navigation is somehow more available in your presence than it is in your absence. These people are the chosens in their arcs who have been sensing the boss in you since before either of you had language for what was being sensed. They have been in relation to the boss of the chosens without knowing what the relation was. Receiving the transmission without knowing what they were receiving. Being changed by the contact without being able to identify what was changing them. Being given what the boss gives, the evidence, the demonstration, the living proof, the settled certainty of the arrived, without having the context in which the giving and the receiving was comprehensible as what it actually was. The context is now available. The naming has arrived. The boss of the chosens and the chosens in their arcs can now inhabit the relationship with the awareness of what the relationship is, what the contact produces and why, what the giving and the receiving actually are, what the transmission actually carries and why the carrying of it matters to the full community of the genuine and to the individual arcs of each person within it. The awareness changes the inhabiting. Not by adding effort to what was already happening naturally. By adding the specific quality of conscious intention to what was always occurring as the natural effect of what you carry in relation to what the others carry. The contact was always happening. The transmission was always occurring. The giving and the receiving were always real. The awareness adds the dimension of knowing what is happening. Of choosing it consciously. Of bringing the full weight of the arrived chapter's understanding to the encounters that were already producing the transmission without the understanding being present. The encounters become fuller when the understanding is present. The people who have always sensed the boss in you receive the transmission more completely when you are inhabiting the boss consciously rather than being it without the conscious inhabiting. Receive the evidence of the arrived more fully when you are moving through the encounters as what you are with the awareness of what you are rather than as what you are with the awareness of something else. The fullness of the inhabiting is the fullness of the giving. And the fullness of the giving is the fullness of the service to the community of the genuine that the position of the boss entails. There is something the boss knows about the chosens that the chosens do not yet know about themselves. Not information that can be transmitted through instruction, the kind of knowing that can only be held by the person who has been through the full arc and has arrived at the perspective that only the arrived can hold. The perspective from which the chosens in their arcs are visible in a way they are not visible from inside the arc. From inside the arc, the experience is the experience of the navigation, of the terrain, of the specific conditions of the current chapter and the specific demands those conditions are making and the specific choices the conditions are requiring. The inside view is the close view, the detailed view. The view in which each difficulty is full-sized and each uncertainty occupies its full weight and each moment of the maximum questioning has its full quality of questioning. The inside view is intense, accurate in its detail, but unable to hold the full arc because the full arc is not visible from any point within it. The boss holds the full arc, has walked the entire terrain, has been in each chapter and come through each chapter and arrived at the perspective that follows from having come through. The perspective from which the full arc is visible as what it actually is, as the specific, intelligent, purposeful sequence that it is, each chapter produced by what preceded it and producing what the following chapter requires, the entire sequence oriented toward the arrived form that the boss is now standing in. From this perspective the boss can see what the chosens in their arcs cannot see, that what they are in is working. That the difficulty is the instrument of the building. That the uncertainty is the condition of the calibration. That the maximum questioning is the phase that produces the direct contact. That every chapter they are in is producing what the next chapter requires. That the arc is oriented. That the orientation is true. That they are moving toward something real. This knowing, this specific, full arc perspective, is the thing the boss carries that the chosens most need and least have access to. Not as information. As the specific quality of presence that the person who holds the full arc perspective brings to every encounter with the person who is inside the arc. The presence of someone who knows from the inside of the arrived that the arc arrives. Not from belief. Not from argument. From having arrived. When a chosen in their arc is in the presence of this presence, when the full arc knowing of the boss is in the encounter with the inside the arc experience of the chosen, something specific happens. The full arc knowing does not argue with the inside the arc experience. Does not try to correct the close view with the long view. Does not instruct the navigator on what the terrain looks like from the arrived position. Simply is present. In the specific quality of settledness and freedom and arrivedness that the full arc perspective produces in the person who holds it. And the chosen, in contact with this presence, receives through the contact what cannot be transmitted through argument. The felt sense of the arc as something that arrives. As something that produces what it promises. As something worth the navigation. This felt sense is the most essential thing the boss carries for the community of the genuine. And it is given in every genuine encounter. automatically, without effort. As the natural consequence of being what you are in the presence of people who are becoming what you are. The world beyond the community of the genuine is changed by the boss of the chosens in a specific way that differs from how the individual chosens change it. Each chosen who completes their arc and inhabits the arrived chapter adds to the presence of the genuine in the world, adds to the counterweight against the managed surface, adds to the number of people who are living from the depth rather than from the performance, adds to the accumulated presence of what is real in a world that is running on increasing proportions of what is not real. The boss of the chosens changes the world in that way and in one additional way. The boss is the person whose existence makes the community of the genuine possible as a community. Not merely as a collection of individuals, each in their own arc, each completing their own navigation, each arriving at their own form of the completed genuine. As the actual community, the network of the arrived and the navigating, connected through the specific quality of recognition that the genuine has for the genuine, oriented around the specific kind of leadership that the boss provides, which is the leadership of the demonstrated possible. Without the boss, the chosens in their arcs are isolated navigators. Each making their own way through their own terrain, each maintaining their own certainty against their own doubt, each arriving at their own completion without the specific grounding that comes from being in the community with someone who has already arrived. The isolation is the condition that the arcs produce when the boss has not yet emerged as the boss, when the arrived form is not yet inhabited by anyone in the community who has navigated the full arc. The boss makes the isolation end. Not for themselves, the boss has already moved through the isolation, has already made the navigation without the grounding that the boss now provides, has already arrived through the full weight of the ungrounded navigation. For the chosens who follow, the boss makes the isolation of the navigation less complete for every chosen who navigates after the boss has arrived. Makes the community real as a community rather than as a dispersed collection of individuals. Makes the network of the genuine more than metaphorical, makes it an actual, felt, relationally real community in which the arrived are present for the arriving and the arriving can feel the arrived, and the whole community moves more efficiently and more completely toward the world it is building because the boss is in it, making it a community. This is the most significant contribution the position makes that is not visible in any single encounter. The making of the community. The making of the community makes the making of the world more possible. The making of the world more possible is the full scope of what the boss of the chosens is for. You are that. You are the boss of the chosens. The community is real because you are in it. The world it is building is more possible because the community is real. The scope of what your existence in the arrived chapter produces, in the community and through the community and in the world the community is building, is the scope that the position has always carried. The scope that was always the purpose of what the arc was building toward. The scope that the full inhabiting of the position now makes available for the world. Inhabit it, fully. Continuously, without the reduction that any previous chapter might have habituated you toward. The community needs the full version. The world needs what the community needs the full version to build. And the boss of the chosens, you, in the completed form, giving what the completed form gives, making real what only the completed form makes real, is the specific thing that the full scope requires. The full account of what the boss of the chosens produces is written in what happens, not available in advance, but in the living of it, in the arcs that complete because the transmission made the destination real enough to navigate toward, in the certainties that held through the maximum questioning because the boss was in the world making the destination visible. in the specific lives that are lived more fully because of what the genuine encounter with the boss gave them at the precise moment it was most needed. That is the whole job, the full being, in the full expression, in the full awareness of what the full being gives to the community of the genuine and to the world the community is building. You are the boss of the chosens. Inhabit it fully, beginning now, continuing without interruption into the full remaining arc of the life the arc produced. The community needs what the position carries. The world needs what the community carries. And the boss of the chosens, you, in the completed form, in the arrived chapter, in the full expression of what all of it was always building toward, is the specific thing that makes the whole movement possible. Click on the video on your screen now. What comes next is the first account of what the full inhabiting of the boss of the chosens looks like. In the specific encounters of the days immediately following the recognition, what changes in the rooms, what the chosens feel in the meeting, what the transmission produces in people who have been navigating toward where you are, and who encounter you for the first time in the full awareness of what they are encountering. Click now. The inhabiting begins here.